The void beyond known space pulsed with the pale light of distant stars, but it was a cold, indifferent radiance, a perfect backdrop for ridicule. From the crystalline command spires of the Zenith Armada's flagship, Shard of Infinity, hollow projections danced in every direction, projecting live feeds of humanity's struggling outposts. "Observe," intoned Counselor Zithra, her six-faceted visage refracting the data streams. "The humans quarrel among themselves even as we approach. They cannot master their own third dimension, yet they dare dream of the stars." Around her, the other 5 counselors, tall, iridescent beings whose forms shifted like quicksilver, raised, luminescent appendages in mock salute. Their laughter rippled through the ship's neural lattice, a crystalline cacophony that resonated in the minds of every officer aboard. Below decks, Admiral Klim watched the spectacle with keen amusement. He tapped a slender crystal rod against the armrest of his command throne, sending tiny pulses of light skittering across the control consoles. "They're pathetic, Admiral," purred Commander Vales, her voice a soft chime that nevertheless carried contempt. "Their defenses amount to tin cans and archaic ion cannons. We'll sweep them aside before they even realize we've arrived." Klim nodded. "Prepare the wavefront arrays. Begin orbital decimation protocols once we breach Earth's atmosphere." He leaned forward, eyes narrowing at the hologram of the battered station Zenith 9. "Let them see the might of the Zenith. Let them drown in our superiority." On the battered ring station Zenith 9, Earth's last bastion in orbit, the mood was grim but not yet broken. Through slanted viewports, etched with pocked craters, Captain Serena Voss watched the incoming transmissions with a tight jaw. The Zenith's derisive feeds flickered across her command center's holoscreens. Humans stumbling to assemble shields, frantic convoys on the lunar surface, archaic third-dimensional fighters launching in a desperate bite-and-hold tactic. Lieutenant Hannah Singh stood at Voss's side, eyes fixed on the overhead ticker. "They've been broadcasting for an hour now," she said, fingers dancing over her datapad. "Our shields on Moonbase Atlas are holding at 76%, but they're already deploying cluster disruptors down there." Serena let out a controlled breath. "And yet they think us primitives." She glanced at the station's status grid. Oxygen levels stable, power reserves low but manageable, crews weary but determined. "Every human outpost in the system is on edge. If this feed shakes their morale too much—" "It won't," Singh interrupted, a confident edge in her tone. "Not with you leading us." She tapped open a secure comm channel. "All stations, report in. Formations Delta through Kappa. Prepare anti-crystal netting. We'll give them something other than easy targets." The communications cluster lit up with green ACK indicators. Even as Zenith transmissions mocked humanity's third-dimensional limitations, Earth's scattered defenders rose to the challenge of guerrilla orbital warfare. Back aboard the Shard of Infinity, Counselor Zithra's laughter faltered for the first time. A fleeting shadow crossed her crystalline surface. "Ensure the propaganda continues," she ordered. "If their pathetic shields hold, at least break their spirit." Admiral Klim frowned. "With respect, Counselor, why waste time on mind games? We control the skies. We control the void. Shall we not just end this farce?" Zithra tilted a petal-like brow. "Humans fear not only our weapons, but our ideology. If we shatter their will before their bodies, victory is complete and irreversible." She gestured at the hologrid, where a new feed began to play, a montage of battlefields on Mars, Titan and Europa, overlaid with Zenith triumphs and human defeats. "Show them what happens to civilizations that cling to inadequate dimensions." Below, in Zenith 9's hidden engineering bay, sealed behind layers of encryption and secured airlocks, Chief Engineer Malik Estrin worked in near-total darkness. The bay's walls were lined with curving conduits that glowed faintly where they pierced reality itself. He adjusted a microscopic phase tuner with gloved fingers, sweat beading at his temples despite the controlled temperature. Behind him, the prototype ship Aether's Wrath lay cradled in an interdimensional cradle. Its hull was sleek, almost organic, etched with pulsating lines of seventh-dimensional circuitry. Estrin whispered to himself as he calibrated the quantum phase matrix. Just a few more harmonics. Stabilize the dimensional resonance, and we'll show them geometry beyond three-dimensional conquest. A chime rang in his comlink. "Malik, status report," said Captain Voss's voice, steady, unyielding. Estrin didn't flinch. "Phase conduit 12 is holding at 99.8%. We should be ready for a test launch within the hour." He glanced at a cylindrical data core spinning slowly on a bench. "Preparing the ether drive. If this works, we'll slip into the seventh dimension unseen." "Good," Voss replied. "Once you're ready, notify me. We launch the moment their flagship breaches the atmosphere." The line went silent. Estrin exhaled. He knew the risks. The quantum phase matrix had never held a vessel steady in 7 dimensions for more than 10 minutes, but the Zenith had never faced anything like Aether's Wrath. If they could harness the hidden realm's power, the Armada's arrogance would become their undoing. Back in the Zenith war room, a sudden alert interrupted the mocking broadcasts. A secondary holoscreen flickered with raw sensor data, an anomaly forming just beyond Earth's dark side. The counselors and officers alike turned to watch. "Report!" snapped Zithra, her crystalline petals shimmering with irritation. Admiral Klim tapped at his console. "A spatial distortion, localized, not characteristic of human weaponry." He paused, brow furrowing. "It's as though a vessel is phasing into our detection range. But its signature is off the charts." The war room fell silent. Even the usual murmur of the neural network stilled. Commander Vales leaned forward. "Impossible. No one, no species, has mastered trans-dimensional transition. If this is a human trick, it's beyond their known capabilities." On Zenith 9, alarms blared as the conduit lattice around Aether's Wrath came online. Estrin keyed in the final sequence. "Voss, we're breaching the dimensional veil." The bay's lights dimmed, the conduits around the hidden ship glowing. In a spectrum of violet and silver, phase inversion in T-10 seconds. Voss's voice crackled over the comlink. "All units stand by. If this works, we strike the Zenith where they least expect it. 10, 9, 8. In the Zenith war room, the hologrid stuttered. Zithra's image fractured for a heartbeat. 3, 2, 1. A silent ripple tore through space itself. 4. A moment that stretched beyond time. Nothing existed but the shimmering rupture above Earth's dark side. Then, with a silent surge of interdimensional power, Aether's Wrath emerged. Its hull outlined in ghostly light, entirely invisible to human eyes, but blazing like a comet to Zenith sensors. The Zenith officers froze as their holo displays glowed. With an unearthly object, a ship not built of pure crystal or dark steel, but something else, something alive with the promise of 7-dimensional mastery. Silence reigned for the first time across the Armada's command decks. And somewhere on Zenith 9, Captain Voss allowed herself a single, determined smile. The real battle for human pride, for survival, for the right to transcend 3 dimensions was about to begin. A low hum thrummed through Zenith 9's hull, a vibration that oscillated between reality and impossibility. In the ship's heart, the launch bay's bioluminescent conduits coalesced into a fractal lattice of shifting geometry. Chief Engineer Malik Estrin moved among them like a conductor before a cosmic orchestra, each adjustment of his neural-linked interface coaxing the lattice toward perfect resonance. "Steady," he murmured, voice echoing in the chamber's eerie. Half silence, A single misstep here would collapse the conduit, and with it, the ether drive. He toggled a hollow switch, and the bay's lights dimmed, leaving only straps of violet and silver illuminating Ether's Wrath's sleek, organic hull. The ship looked as if carved from light itself, its surface alive with pulsing lines that traced impossible angles, blueprints of a realm beyond senses. Estrin's visor displayed cascading diagnostics, phase coherence at 99.97%, dimensional. Bleed at tolerable thresholds, energy draw within safe margins. He tapped a confirmation glyph. Conduit matrix is holding, ready for channeling the ether drive. Behind him, the engineering crew, half breathless, half awed, watched the floating starship. Technician Marisol Way, voice barely above her, whisper asked, "What will it feel like?" Estrin allowed himself a small grin. "Like slipping through a mirror into your own reflection. But the reflection shapes you." Above them, Captain Serena Voss stood on the command deck, eyes fixed, on the tactical holomap of the Zenith Armada. In the last hour, the Shard of Infinity had begun its orbital descent, tearing a silent wake of crystal shard sensors across the darkness. Once they breached the magnetic sheath, orbital bombardment would begin. Earth's defenders clung to hope, but without Ether's Wrath, they faced certain annihilation. Voss keyed her comlink. "Malik, confirm status." "Bay is locked," came Estrin's calm reply. "We've synchronized the phase conduits, awaiting your order." She exhaled. "Do it." A ripple passed through Zenith 9 as the station's power grid diverted its reserves. The lattice of conduits flared to life, arcs of prismatic energy dancing across the ceiling. Beneath them, Ether's Wrath seemed to breathe, a slow inhale of power. On the Zenith flagship, Councillor Zithra's crystalline countenance narrowed as her senses caught the anomaly. "They activate it," she hissed. "Full spectrum scans." "Impossible," Admiral Klim replied, voice taut, their energy signature. "It's not localized, it's everywhere and nowhere at once." Zithra's many-faceted eye petals sharpened. "Focus on the rift. Let us see this marvel." Back in the bay, the final sequence engaged. Estrin's visor alerted him, dimensional threshold at 100%. His hand hovered over the phase invert glyph. "Once we're through," Voss's steady voice crackled, "you'll have minutes at best before the conduits collapse. Use them wisely." He pressed it. Reality convulsed. With a soundless shockwave, the bay vanished into a prism of fractured space, walls strewn with wandering light rays that dripped like liquid glass. Estrin stumbled in zero-G as Ether's Wrath's hull flickered, phasing between solidity and translucent geometry. For an instant he saw everything, the station's metal bones replaced by webs of energy, the engineers' forms, ghostly echoes, time itself stretching out in crystalline facets. Then, equally silent, it reassembled around them. The launch. Bay faded into the starry void beyond Earth's atmosphere. "We're clear," Estrin gasped, voice reverberating strangely in his helmet. "Seventh dimension. Accessed." From the bridge's holoscreen, Voss watched the phased readouts. Ether's Wrath no longer registered on conventional sensors. "Excellent," she said. "Cruise at maximum fold speed toward the zenith. Fleet, we strike when they least expect." On the Shard of Infinity, panic rippled through the command deck. The rift they had watched expand with growing dread now snapped shut, and every sensor that had tracked Ether's Wrath went dark. Commander Vales slammed a crystal rod against her console. "They vanished." Klim's luminous form trembled. "Their ship. It's like they never existed." He leaned closer to the hologrid. "But the rift. It closed too cleanly. That was our window." Zithra's petals contracted into sharp points. "They have trespassed our domain. Prepare the wavefront arrays. If they can toy with dimensions, we will trap them in ours." Meanwhile, in the immeasurable corridors of the seventh dimension, Aether's wrath sailed through vistas of kaleidoscopic energies. Spatial geometry folded back upon itself. Stars were no longer points of light, but living networks of possibility. At the helm, Captain Voss felt the ship's hull hum in resonance with her own heartbeat. "Set course for high-orbit rendezvous above the Zenith flagship," she ordered. "We'll re-enter near their port side and give them a demonstration they'll never forget." Below decks, Malik Estrin peered through his viewport into the mind-bending vista. "We've opened a new frontier," he whispered to Marisol. "Not just to travel, but to fight, and to win." Marisol smiled, eyes wide with wonder. "Then let's show them exactly what three-dimensional beings can do when they embrace the infinite." As the hidden human ship glided through spectral currents, an unseen chorus of defiance thrummed between realities. Tomorrow, the Armada would learn that to mock humanity was to awaken a force beyond comprehension. The true battle had only just begun. The Zenith Armada's battle lines glittered against the void like a swarm of crystalline hornets, bristling with wavefront arrays and gravitonic disruptors. Unseen, Aether's wrath slipped back from the seventh dimension's kaleidoscopic currents, phasing into real space just above the Shard of Infinity's starboard hull. Captain Voss's fingers danced over the hollow console as the world's first interdimensional warship re-emerged in 3 dimensions, an impossible silhouette of pulsating angles and living light. Below decks, Malik Estrin initiated the Ether, Drive's subatomic torsion cannons. "Ready on my mark," he whispered to his team, sweat beading despite the lack of atmosphere. Through the viewport, the Zenith flagship's crystalline bulk loomed closer, its sensors still scrambling for a proper lock. With a single nod from Voss, the bridge shuddered as the torsion wave unfurled in a silent pulse, the first shot tearing through the Shard of Infinity's deflector grid, scattering its crystal facets like stardust. Panic erupted across the zenith. Command deck. Counselor Zithra's many-faceted visage fractured in disbelief as the flagship convulsed under the cascade of seventh-dimensional energy. Admiral Klim barked orders, but his resonant voice faltered under the onslaught. The Ether's torsion beams unraveled the ship's very geometry, stripping away layers of crystalline armor until only glowing tendrils of structure remained. In the corridors, officers found their forms flickering, caught between states of existence beyond comprehension. Voss seized her moment. "Deploy quantum anchor nets," she commanded. From hidden hatches around Ether's wrath spilled swirls of entangled filaments, each strand a spiderweb of phase-locked energy. They wove around the crippled flagship, binding it to this dimension, even as its crew desperately tried to slip back into the seventh. With every pulse of the nets, the Shard of Infinity became more real, more vulnerable, its interdimensional ambitions shackled by human ingenuity. As the flagship's core began to collapse, Zithra reached out with every petal of her crystalline mind, pleading for retreat. But the Ether Drive's final salvo rendered the plea moot. A concentrated spike of folded reality drove through the bridge, devouring the command nexus in a prism of collapsing space-time. The Shard of Infinity shattered from the inside out, its shards dissolving into quantum foam. Silence reclaimed the void. On the bridge of Ether's wrath, Captain Voss exhaled, her eyes reflecting distant stars that now seemed infinitely safer. "All units, stand down," she said softly. Around her, the crew watched as the surviving Zenith vessels disengaged, their arrogance scrubbed away by a weapon they could neither comprehend nor contain. In the aftermath, Ether's wrath slipped once more into the hidden folds of the seventh dimension, leaving behind stunned remnants of an empire and a reborn Earth alliance. And as Earth's defenders rebuilt their battered outposts, no longer merely three-dimensional beings, but masters of realms untold, their triumph echoed across all known realities. Those who laugh at humanity risk awakening powers beyond their ken. The laughter, at last, had died.